Hi, it's Maribeth Decker with sacredgrove.com, where people and pets heal and connect. I am an intuitive animal communicator. I hope you know that, but if not, I figured I'd say it. And I'm here with Deb. Deb Unger is really good at fostering cats, and one of the things about being an animal communicator is I get to meet people who have huge expertise in areas I don't, and I thought you would probably want to hear from somebody who's mistress of cat whispering and cat fostering. So anyway, and Deb has taken my class as well. We'll talk a little more about that, but let me tell you about Deb. So she works for the Occoquan, Woodbridge, Lorton Volunteer Fire Department. And for those of us in Virginia, particularly Northern Virginia, I know that means something. For the rest of you, go ahead and Google it. It's a great area to live in if you don't live there. She has been their business manager for about 10 years. Deb also has a degree in music education, and so how wonderful. She is a soprano in the Choral Arts Society of Washington. And if you wanted to see her sing, you would go to the Kennedy Center. If you've been to the Kennedy Center, that is a big deal in Washington, D.C. She sings with that group, and she's been doing that for 15 years. And those are people who could sing professionally, but they're doing it this way. So you're getting a really good experience. Now, finally, let's talk about fostering. She and her husband started fostering kittens for Fancy Cats and Dog Rescue Team in August 2014. Since then, listen to this number. Deb and her husband have fostered over 300 kittens and moms and found homes for all of them. Additionally, she fosters for the Kitten College, I love that name, at the Animal Welfare League of Arlington, which is Virginia again. And on occasion, she's taken courses with various phases of kitten care, and she's really gotten to know the organization, and she knows her kittens. So tell me a little bit more, Deb, what got you into fostering? I mean, really, there must have been, just tell me, how'd you get to be a foster mom?
Okay. For as long as I can remember, I've always loved animals. And when I got a little older and I found out that we had such a problem in the United States with an overpopulation of cats that were homeless, feral cats, yeah. That the shelters were full of cats, that there was a humongous euthanasia rate for cats in the shelters, which just breaks my heart. I've been told just, if they go to a shelter, especially if they're not little kittens, but if a cat goes to a shelter, then it's probably the end. So I wanted to do something about that. And I have tried to find something to do. And I was introduced to fostering by a friend of mine who volunteered for an organization in Alexandria, Virginia. She would go in and socialize and clean the cages and things, but she told me about the fostering program. So I friended them on Facebook and started watching. And in August of 2014, there was a post put out that they were in desperate need of fosters. That they wanted to pull a mom and her 5 babies and another 4 babies that didn't have a mom. They wanted to pull them from a kill shelter in Maryland. And that they were out of fosters. The summer, there's so many cats in the summer, and the fall. They run out of fosters, and this is a problem that happens nationwide. So we had just moved into a bigger house and had a space, and I told my husband, I said, this is it. Let's do this. So my husband's like, okay, but it'll be all right. It'll be okay. So we took these in and immediately fell in love with the process. Who doesn't love little kittens, first of all?
Oh, yeah.
And although they're messy little creatures, they're so much fun. And we just totally fell in love with it. So we got those adopted very quickly, and then started, asking for more and asking for more, asking for more. The organization that I was fostering for doesn't like you to have too many, but at one point I had over 30 kittens and moms in my house. Now, I have a very large house with a lot of empty rooms we bought as an investment. And I had them in rooms that I had designated no cat rooms because I just couldn't say no. I would get this email and I'd say, oh God, let me see, I can put them in the bathroom, I mean, they don't know the difference, and they're perfectly happy with the bathroom. So that's how I got so many at one point. Anyway, we've just loved every minute of it. And basically that's how it happened. Is it just built into that, and I started taking the classes and learning about them, and I became a specialist, especially a neonatal kitten specialist with bottle feeding and sick kittens and things like that.
No kidding. Well, tell me more about that. I mean, so I got 3 cats, I got 2 dogs, but I haven't fostered. So when you get the foster process, what happens, and then let's go into the kitten care. That sounds wonderful. So
Okay.
so somebody says I got more, so you bring them into the house, and what happens next?
It depends on your organization. Some do a triage of the cats before you get them, and have already done a medical check and all this kind of stuff, and they just tell you, what their condition is and if you need to give them certain medications or whatever. Our organization, when I started, was overwhelmed, and their medical director had just left, and so I would just get the kittens straight from the shelter. Nobody had seen them. And the mother. And so I had to learn to watch for different diseases or different conditions that might need treating, make sure that they, wash them and get the fleas out of them. And, I had to learn how to bathe and dry little kittens and different things like that. We also do we give the medications ourselves after we've been trained in this organization. So I give them the dewormer every 2 weeks. I would give them, we have several other what we call prophylactic medications. Most kittens get coccidia, so we just knock that out right in the beginning. That's an oral medicine. And I give them their distemper shots as well. I've been trained to do all that. Can't give them the rabies, you have to be a vet. But and then we literally are in charge of those kittens all the way through when they get adopted. It's our responsibility to get them fixed when they're the right age. Usually just the mothers, but the kittens, if they get to 6 months old before they're adopted, we get them fixed. So we have to do that. We have to take pictures. We have to write bios on them to get posted up. We have to take them to adoption events. It's quite a commitment of time, a huge commitment of time. But you're in the organization that I fostered for, the Fancy Cats, it's hands-on, literally from the shelter to the new home. I trained in doing my own adoption, so I know how to do the paperwork. I'm a certified adoption specialist, and the whole everything. So people would come to my home, and I would talk to them on the phone after an application came in, and then if I thought they were suitable and the cat was suitable for them, or maybe if I had another cat that might even be more suitable for them, I would invite them to my home, and they would come and bring their family, and they would meet the cats. And then if they decided they wanted to adopt them, they could either come back and get them later, or we could do the adoption right there and they could take them home if everything was in order, because their adoption had already been vetted by our application specialist. That the application had been. So it was a big responsibility in my heart. I wanted to make sure that these were good homes for my kittens, and that it was a good match between the people and the kittens.
Right.
So many times the kittens if they come from the shelters, and especially if they're little, they're sick, because in the shelters.
Really?
Yes. In the shelters, there is just, at least the Maryland shelters where we were pulling most of our kittens from, there was tons and tons of germs in the shelters that the kittens would get just by being in the shelter. And they would come to me, and if they didn't already have it, they would shortly thereafter. They would have respiratory issues and ringworm and all kinds of things. So I had to
It's hard
know
to
how
hear. That's hard to hear. But thank
it
you for
is.
telling the truth. That's what
It
that.
is. It's very hard to hear. And my organization was wonderful about supporting me, in caring for these kittens. And like I said, I took many, many courses in how to diagnose and treat the kittens. I give them fluids if they're, dehydrated. I had to learn a lot of vet tech type things in order to take care of these kittens,
Mhm.
because fancy cats didn't have the funding for constant vet bills. I mean, it's just vet bills just
Oh,
overwhelm us.
right.
So we had to learn to do as much as we could. And a lot of fosters would bring their kittens to me instead of to the vet. And then I could either say, okay, here's what you need to do. Or I'd say, oh, I'm sorry. This one needs to go to the vet. It's out of my, expertise. So
Right.
that's pretty much, I
Wow.
was a very involved foster, or am a very involved foster.
Are there levels of fostering? Like
Yes.
you sound like what I would call sainthood fostering. Is there?
No, I
Are there
don't
are there
think.
other levels? I don't want to scare everybody away.
No, I was just like a senior level foster.
You're good.
There's fostering. A lot of people in there foster just a cat, a cat
Okay.
that's come in and needs to settle down. Maybe their family had to give them up, for maybe their owner died or whatever, and they
Oh,
need
right.
to settle down a little bit and need to have their personality assessed so that we
Right.
can make a good match for them. And it's one cat, and it's an adult cat. It's not a kitten climbing your curtains and everything else. So it's there are many, many, many levels of fostering.
Okay.
I am a senior
You
level
are a senior.
foster.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's
Okay.
Zorro.
So is that Fergus?
No, this is Zorro. This is
This is
actually,
Zorro.
he was in my first litter. His mom and him and 4 siblings, and then 4 that didn't have a mom. My very first.
Very
And
first.
I fell in love
Oh,
with my Zorro baby, and so
he's,
he was what we call a foster fail.
I love it. He's a cutie.
He is.
He looks happy.
Sure.
All right. Thanks for showing up, Zorro. We always like to see foster failures. So, okay. So you got a full-time job.
Hmm.
You're the Choral Society, if I got that right. But
Hmm.
how does this nurture you instead of like how does this nurture you? Because you're upbeat, you're full of energy, you're doing well.
Many of us search all of our lives for a way to make a difference in the world. You hear people say, oh, I'm just one vote. It won't matter if I go and vote or not. I'm just one vote. Well, I'm just one person, one foster, and I have saved over 300 lives.
Wow.
And made a lot of people very happy because they love their pets that they adopted from me. So I am making a difference. I like to say I make a difference in the world, one kitten at a time.
Yeah.
And it sounds small. I mean, it's a small contribution, but if, the more people do it, the more contribution. And what I would like to see one day is, oh, it's so difficult to get a cat. I have to get on a waiting list. And, I want to hear that instead of, oh my God, 3 cats showed up in my yard yesterday. They're starved to death. They're sick, and I don't want to hear that. So I'm doing my best to make a difference in the world in whatever way I can. People say my music making makes a difference. I know I make a difference working for a volunteer fire department, but this is another way I can make a difference and I can help change the world.
I love it. Thank you. Well, thank you for everything you're doing there. Oh my goodness, because everybody counts, every little soul, every little kid,
Absolutely.
they
Every
all
single
count.
cat.
Everybody.
Even if you don't have room to have the cat in your house to foster them, you can come to a center and, clean the cages and socialize the cats and play with them. That sounds like a terribly tough job, I know, but that is extremely important. Very important.
That's true. They gotta like people to get adopted. They got right. Well, let me ask you, so are there any questions that people ask you about fostering that seems to keep them from doing it? There's like,
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, Maribeth.
yeah,
When I talk about fostering, 99% of the time, the response I get from the person is, oh, I could never do that. I could never let the cat go. I would want to keep them all. And I said, boy, do I understand that. And I said, every single time one of my cats gets adopted, I ugly cry. It doesn't matter whether I've had them for 1 day or a year and a half. And I said, because I have invested myself in them. I have become their mother, their caretaker, their everything.
Yeah.
And it's hard to let them go. It's hard not to be worried about them every day and thinking about them every day. But I fall in love with them, every single one of them. And does it hurt? Yeah, it hurts my heart. But it makes my heart happier than it hurts it, if that makes sense. I hear from so many of my former adopters. I get pictures, I get updates, I get all kinds of stuff, and that just makes me so happy. And when I ugly cry for them leaving, I'm ugly crying for my loss. I'm ugly crying because I know it's going to be a rough couple of days as they transition. I said, but yet I'm so happy that they have their permanent home, because that's something I can't offer them. I have 7 cats of my own, and 5 of them are foster fails. So
you've done,
can't do any more foster fails.
Yeah, no more.
So,
Yeah.
and I don't have the time to give them if I kept them all. I'd become a hoarder, and that's a terrible situation.
We don't want that. We were just reading a story of somebody that they found who was doing hoarding and neglect and terrible
Doesn't
stuff.
help anybody.
Doesn't help anybody, particularly the animals that you're trying to.
Exactly. They had the best of intentions, but it's not the answer.
It's not the answer.
So yes.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So I'm listening in because I'm kind of in that category of, oh my goodness, like when my daughter, she got Mac and Bunny, my 2 white cats, while she was in college at VCU in Richmond, and she brought them to me. She used to bring them with her when she would come for the weekend. And she said, I'm going to India. Can you find another home? And, they're foster fails. I'm like, my husband is like, we got to find them another home. And I'm like, no, not. And the joke was that he didn't figure it out. I knew it way before he knew that they weren't going anywhere. So,
oh yes.
Yeah. So
I know
yeah.
how that.
But I could see how letting them go and enjoy and being with the family they're supposed to be with, because I do feel about that.
Yes.
There's a soul connection between people.
Absolutely. And I can feel it.
That's right. You've got that good intuition going on, don't you?
Yes. When I talk to a potential foster, I've always been pretty good at getting a feeling of a person. And I ask them certain questions, and based upon their answers, I go a little further, and I can learn a lot about them very quickly, and I can tell what type of cat would fit best with them.
Holy cow.
And a lot of times the cat they're coming to see, I'm like, that's really not a good cat for them. That's a high maintenance cat, and that's not what they're looking for. Or vice versa. That cat's kind of standoffish, and they're looking for something, a Velcro cat, And so I'll let them come and see that one, but I'll let them see that personality isn't quite what they want. And I'll let them meet another cat that I have that I think is a perfect match. And I have a 100% success rate. I don't say to them, I think this cat is better for you. I let them realize it, because to me, a cat is, they know if a person's right for them. And many times I've turned adopters away because I can tell by watching the cat and tell by the cat's reaction to them that they don't particularly care for this person. And there is no way that cat's going home with those people.
Wow.
No way. And I either have to direct them to another cat that does seem to like them, or just tell them, I just don't think this is a good fit. You need to keep looking. And
that's so much better. Who wants to hang out with an animal that doesn't care?
Exactly. So it's been a real learning experience, and the classes that I took from your UConnect classes have really helped me understand that it's not just in my head. It's not something that I have thought, and I have come to that conclusion. But I really am hearing the cat talk to me. I really am sensing the cat's feelings. And also the people. A lot of times they'll say things to me and I'm like, that came out of your mouth, but that didn't come from your heart or your head. I can
Oh,
sense that. And now that I have the confidence that you have given me, that this
mhm.
isn't something I'm making up, but that it's real, I listen to it even more than I did before.
Oh,
And
I'm
many
so glad to hear
times
that.
I have said, I've had some cats that didn't get adopted for a long time. And I'm like, oh my God, this is such a great cat. Why is nobody adopting this cat? They're wonderful. They're perfect. And nobody's adopting them. And at first I got really discouraged. And then I realized as, time went by, the perfect person showed up. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
oh,
I get it now.
just
That,
gotta wait a little bit.
yep,
The message hasn't gotten out, through the ether.
exactly.
Come here, come here. I
God
gotta
always
talk to
answers your
you.
prayers, just not maybe how or when you want them. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just have to wait. That person is there and they will show up. And so I don't get discouraged. I just enjoy having the cat for as long as I do. And then when the person finally comes, then everybody's happy. So
Oh, I love that. Thanks. That's wonderful. Oh, I wanted to ask you, you mu- you must have some good stories, something that just makes to share with us. And I always like to hear a story or two. So,
I actually have a wonderful story
oh,
for you. This is
please.
one everybody loves. So I'll share this one with you.
Okay.
I think I had been maybe not quite a year. I think it had been about 9 months or so that I had been fostering. And I got a call and the director said, would you like 2 pregnant cats? Well, I had never had a pregnant cat before. I had only gotten them with the kittens. And I
Right.
said, 2 pregnant cats? And she said, yeah. And I said, oh my gosh, I wouldn't know what to do. And she goes, honey, it's okay. They know what to do. You just need to give them a
Oh,
warm, quiet
right.
place. They know what to do. And I'm like, okay. So I got these 2 cats and they were both gray. And I looked at their paperwork and they came from the same shelter.
Mhm.
And there's not a lot of information on the paperwork that I get, but I just had this feeling that they came from the same place. Their faces were shaped different, but they were both gray. And I don't know, I just had this really strong feeling. I said, these cats know each other. Well, I had followed protocol and put one in one room and one in the other, because the last thing you want to do is upset a pregnant mom.
Oh,
You wouldn't
right.
want to put them with a strange cat. So you put them in separate rooms. So I had them in separate rooms and they were so lonely and they were so sweet and loving and they were lonely. And I couldn't be there with them. I had to go to work and all this. So I told my husband, I said, you know what? I'm following my intuition. These cats know each other. I'm positive they know each other. And I said, I'm going to try an experiment. So I put one of them in a crate and took them into the room where the other one was and set it down. And the mother came up and started sniffing and she was meowing and rubbing and the other one was rubbing. And I'm like, okay, there's no
Oh,
hissing, there's no growling. I said, these cats know each other. So I opened the door and they immediately ran out and started grooming each other. And then they went over to the birthing box and laid in there together, all snuggled up. And I'm
oh,
like, I was
you
right.
knew your stuff.
I was right.
Yeah.
So this started the most wonderful experience. These mothers, of course, kept each other company. And it was pretty sure that one was older than the other. Perhaps it was an older sister. Maybe it was its mother. I don't know. But
Hmm.
I know I was pretty sure one was older than the other. Well, thank goodness she gave birth first. And the younger one got to watch the whole process. And unfortunately, they gave birth in the middle of the night when I wasn't there. I didn't know what was happening. So I came in the next morning and there were babies. And I could
Yeah.
tell which one had given birth because they were only nursing on that one. They weren't nursing on the other one. But to make a very long and wonderful story short, a few days later, the other kitten, the other mother, the first one gave birth to 5. The next mother gave birth to 7. So, right, yeah, because that adds up to 12. Okay, gave birth to 7. Well, I'm pretty sure that second one that gave birth, it was a first time birth.
Oh, wow.
So she just looked shell shocked, and we would watch her walk up to the box. We had one huge birthing box that they all shared. They were all in the same one.
Yeah.
And she would walk up and just look in that box like, oh my God, what am I doing this? And so Brittany, the one I think was her mother, for a while was a single mother of 12 babies because the younger one was like, I'm just overwhelmed. So we were able to calm her and then she went back. But the 2 of them raised the litters together. We call them the Dirty Dozen is what we called them. They were black, all black. I think one of them had a little white blaze or gray, one or the other. Those were the colors. And we had more fun with those 12 kittens and 2 mothers. And the sweetest thing, I believe, and strongly, and I never will ever change this, that kittens, when they're little, up to about 9 months, should always be adopted in pairs or need to go with the same. It doesn't have to be a kitten they know, although that's better for everybody, but it has to be a kitten of about the same age. It's just really important. So they all went out in 2s and 3s. All the kittens were adopted out in 2s and 3s. And then I had the 2 moms left. And I was able to get those 2 girls adopted together.
Oh,
So
that's
they
such a
went
good
to their
story.
home together. So it is probably the story that makes my heart smile the most. And there's been many wonderful stories, but that one was really cool.
That's a good one.
I'm so glad I listened to my intuition in the beginning.
No kidding. What a wonderful thing to have seen all that, especially the older mom helping the younger mom.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I think I'd be looking in there going, "They're still there." Oh, hasn't somebody taken them, to the nursery or something? I don't, I can imagine the little girl looking.
Oh, the look of shock on her face was sad and funny at the same time. But she stopped eating and everything. We had to. Yeah, I mean, she was just so overwhelmed. She was a mess. But we got her turned around. And
I love it. That's so good.
Yeah.
Look, just for us dumb people about getting cats, are there a few smart things about introducing a new cat in the family? I love the thing about the 2 of the same age. I wish I'd done that with Shadow. And I am very, very lucky that my dog Stella adopted her and said, I've got somebody to play with. And she had a friend, because the 2, Mac and, this is a long way of saying, the other 2 cats were not interested in being sociable with her. They didn't know. Yep. Stella saved the day and is still saving the day there. So she's a good nanny cat. Nanny dog cat, whatever. All right, given all that, can you just give us a couple of good ideas?
Absolutely. First of all, cats and dogs can make wonderful companions. There's no 2 ways about it. Yeah. My very first cat that I got, it was a neighbor's cat, and it was a family that had come from 2 broken marriages and then come together. She brought 2 dogs and he brought a cat. And the cat when he had gotten the cat, she was a little kitten, and it was just her, no other cats. Yeah. And she did fine with the dogs. She didn't really interact with them, but she didn't care one way or another. Okay. But she hated other cats. So the woman who brought the 2 dogs, she wanted 2 kittens. So she went out and got kittens. Muffy hated them and refuse to go back in the house. She was an indoor-outdoor cat. She refused to go back in the house, but so she decided she wanted to live with me, and I had no pets. So long story short, she ended up, for various reasons, being given to me. Okay. And my mom's dog was over quite a bit, or mom and dad's dog, when I would babysit him, and she was fine with that. She was fine with mice, gerbils. She didn't care, as long as it wasn't a cat. No cats. Mm-hmm. So that is what I call single cat syndrome. It's a common story. And if you get a kitten especially, and take them away and they're not with other kittens throughout their development, at least until like 9 months, you'll probably get a cat that will never accept another cat.
Okay.
So, and cats, people think, oh, cats are solitary creatures. They don't need another creature. Well, that's not true. They may be solitary creatures in that they don't appear to be too social. Maybe they don't always cuddle and lay together or play together, but they need other animals around. They really do. They are not solitary creatures. So I'm a firm
Well, that's
believer.
true. They live outside. They're in a cat colony generally.
Exactly.
Right? They're not just,
Exactly.
I've got my territory, you've got yours.
Yep.
They're actually,
Yep.
okay, good.
So the important thing, I think, when you're getting a family pet, if you're getting a kitten, puppies don't seem to be the same. I don't know that much about dogs. They seem to be fine if you get them single as a little puppy, but cats are different. And if you're going to get a cat and they're a little kitten, you really need to get two, not only for the cats, but for you. First of all, they're much more entertaining. You don't feel so guilty when you have to leave the house and leave them alone, because they won't be alone. There's so many benefits. And the downside is, okay, so it's an extra scoop in the litter box. Yes, it's an extra vet visit every year. Yes, it's an extra scoop or can of food. But come on, it's not that big of a deal.
No, it isn't.
Not for what they give you back. So.
That's the truth. Well, that's really good advice. Thank you. Stella really saved the day for Shadow.
Good Stella.
She is good. She's my boo. So thank you so much. This was fascinating. This was so enjoyable to hear about it. I'm going to get from you some information if people maybe in the local area want to volunteer. Maybe I'll put it in the comments section.
Of course.
And if you have anything that I missed that I should have asked about it right now, I want to just give you the chance to share with me anything I should have asked or talked about.
All I can say is don't let the common excuses, I don't have enough room, I couldn't let them go, don't let that stop you from trying to foster at least once. Try it, because it's hard work sometimes it's not. It just depends on the circumstance. And you may think that a bathroom would be a terrible thing to be shut up in, but go look at a cage in a shelter. Your bathroom is a heck of a lot better than that. You can save this animal, not just save their lives, but you can save their mind and their emotions and that, and make them a better and more likely to get adopted, just by opening your home to them for a little while. Try it, because it's unknown. Until you try it, it's an unknown. You may have your thoughts of how it will be, but you won't know until you try it.
Yeah.
So let's all band together and foster these animals, cats, dogs. Let's get them out of the shelters and into homes, and take care of feral colonies, trap, neuter in return. Let's help get the overpopulation of cats and unwanted cats, just to get that problem eradicated. Let's make my dream come true of someone saying one day, I've been on a wait list for 6 months for a cat. Oh my gosh, I would love to hear that. So give it a try. It won't hurt anything. And you can just say, okay, that wasn't for me. I'm not going to do it again. But you will have saved one.
And you might have another cat